What's up guys, Spin Firearms here, and today we're going to be talking about 8 different handguns that really surprised me. But now that I notice it, I have this Beretta out, so we're going to be talking about handguns that surprised me in a good way. So this Beretta Pico right here is definitely not included. But before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. A lot of these firearms you're going to see in this video are rarely talked about, rarely hyped up. Some could be a little bit older, but it's a little good mix of everything, I think, in my opinion. Brands, quality, prices, all sorts of stuff, and we're going to get into that. First handgun on the list is the sleeper so far. This is the handgun that you don't hear people talk about, you rarely see videos on, even though there are videos out on there, and it is a great handgun. It is an awesome option for everyday carry, and I love this thing. I actually have 2 G-Force Arms Rapture GF9s, and they are both 100% reliable, and we're both up to almost to 1,000 rounds with each handgun. Now, things I like about this handgun is it is a Glock 26 compatible upper and internals, other than the mag catch and mags, but they made it with a thinner frame, a Glock 43X size frame. So this right here is more capacity than a 43X. It's 12+1, while still taking Glock 26 and Gen 3 Glock parts, which are some of the most compatible and most commonly found parts anywhere in the world to this day. And if crap ever hits the fan, that's just another great thing for this handgun right here. Has awesome texturing on it, awesome ergonomics, has a different grip angle than a Glock. So for the people who want to run a Glock 26 with a different grip angle, I really suggest this lower. It is an awesome setup. I've also ran this upper on my 26 and it runs flawlessly. Awesome memory pads, awesome 3-dot fiber optic sights with that U-notch rear, a really nice finish on it actually. I was very surprised by it, and a very nice flat face trigger. It is a Glockish trigger pull, maybe a little lighter, but that flat face is a really nice touch to pull off the handgun. But being a budget handgun around $330, you can't really go wrong with it. Holster options are the only thing that it's lacking, and aftermarket support, but the people over at G-Force Arms said they were going to be releasing some more parts for this, or aftermarket upgrades, that whole sort of thing. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot on this handgun in the future. Who knows what that means, but that is the G-Force Arms Rapture GF9. A solid choice. Next up is going to be the FN Reflex. I know a lot of people talked about this handgun when it first came out and stuff like that, and someone who owns almost every Micro 9, I see the FN Reflex as being probably one of the better Micro 9s on the market. And what's interesting about that is the Reflex came out a little later compared to a lot of these other Micro 9s. Even though there's a lot of brands and companies that are coming out with their Micro 9 this year, the Reflex was a little later compared to some of these other larger companies, right? For instance, SIG or Springfield Armory or Smith & Wesson or Ruger. But they did everything right. The only thing they didn't do right is on the FDA version, that finish really wears down with holster wear and holstering. It is coming off, but not a big deal because this thing runs 100% flawlessly. It's super ergonomic with the 15-round mag. It's even ergonomic with the smaller mag, which is, I believe, 11 rounds. It has a little bit longer slide than like a Hellcat. It's closer like a P365 XL or a Hellcat Pro, but it comes with a rail, so you have awesome light options. 3-dot sights, 2 white dot rears, and then you have an orange outline and a tritium front sight, so that is a night sight up front, and you do not have to charge it for it to glow. It is tritium. Texturing is everywhere on this handgun, and it just feels good. No memory pads or anything like that, but the recoil impulse on the Reflex is really solid. For how small this handgun is, the fact that you can shrink it down into a real small handgun, this thing really handles recoil well. It handles recoil better than the P365. It handles it better than the Hellcat, 100%. No debate about that. But overall, ergonomics and grip angle of this handgun make it an awesome carry piece. Shootability, the trigger, it's just a good, solid handgun. The one thing I will say is that 15-round mag sticks out a little bit longer than all the other Micro 9s, except for the Shield Plus, but it is going to be longer when it comes down to it. But overall, you still get the capacity, and it's super thin, so you can conceal it really well. Next up, we're going to talk about the Ruger Maxkn. Now, I made a video talking about this, certain concerns I had with it, certain thoughts I had about it, stuff like that, and overall, the handgun has really surprised me. Now, I've only owned it for about a month and a half now, but I've gotten a decent round count through it, and man, I actually like this handgun. And people were saying they got it for $300. Well, I paid a little more than that, but I did buy it from my local gun store, so I'm supporting them, so it is a little bit more expensive, so I don't mind that. But the fact that you can find this for $300 is a great package. Now, someone explained to me that the slide wiggle on it, which is one of my concerns, is simply for less wear and tear over time. So that might make sense, because I've had handguns I've bought before with it seemed to be different tolerances and it had a little bit of a wiggle, but they say it's to lower the amount of wear and tear and rubbing for longer use. So if that's the truth, then that makes sense, and that's fine with me, because when it's holstered you don't hear a rattle or anything like that. It's really when you just shake it and stuff like that. But overall texturing is perfect on this Ruger. I did say it felt a little bit cheaper than your average handgun, but yeah, that's because it's $300. It's going to be a little bit cheaper feeling. But overall, it has decent quality. The ergonomics are on point. You can throw in the 12-round mag. This right here is the 10-round mag. The finish isn't the greatest, so that's probably my number one concern about it. The number one thing that I don't like is that finish. But overall, great sights. A tritium fiber optic. Where do you see this come stock from the company on a handgun? That is a tritium fiber optic front with a blacked out bracket rear, similar to a Glock, just different shaped. Optics ready. So for $300, this is a heck of a handgun, and I heard the Galloway Precision trigger really makes a big difference if you upgrade it. Next up is going to be one of my most popular videos, so anyone who watched it, I really appreciate it. It was a full review on the Stoger ST9 Sub Compact, and it's called the best $230 you could spend on a handgun. This handgun was going for $230 on PSA. It's a Glock 26 clone, but a way more ergonomic Glock 26. This is like the perfect overall feel. If you were to give me a Glock 26 and I was going to say make a frame or a grip, this would be it. Awesome texturing, awesome texturing, awesome texturing. Only one finger groove, and it's big, and then you do whatever you want with these other three fingers. Has a rail, which a Glock 26 doesn't, a decent finish, an awesome flat face trigger, and it's been 100% reliable. Metal sights, unlike Glock, right out of the box. They're a 3-dot white sight, but I do want to swap them out 100%. Not a big fan of how tall they sit, and they're just awkwardly shaped, but for $230 you really can't beat this handgun right here. It just feels good in the hand. It's just a natural shooter. It's just a really smooth, reliable budget handgun. So that is the Stoger ST9 Sub Compact. And just remember, it's really hard to find the mags for it, but it can use its bigger brother's mags like the Stoger STR9C and full size. So keep that in mind if you do go with a handgun like that. Next up is going to be the Glock 43X. Because I am a Glock 26 person, that's my main carry and still is and probably will be for a long time. The 43X never really was something I was big into. Even though I owned it, I also owned the 48. I really realized the importance of the 43X this summer. Taking it shooting in the woods, and man, is this grip angle the best grip angle out of any handgun for concealed carry. These ergonomics are better than anything else, and that's what makes the 43X. It lacks in capacity for its size. I think 10+1 is plenty, but compared to other people who are always talking about capacity, 10+1 for the size of a Glock 19 is very low in today's standards. But for me, it's all in the shootability, the natural point of aim, that grip angle, the ergonomics. And guys, trust me, throw some Handle at Edge series grips or some Talon Pro grips on there, and your hands will feel like they are in heaven every time you pick up this handgun. And for someone who works with their hands and has bad hands that are always messed up, this is one of my favorite handguns to honestly pull out of the safe and take to the range, because this thing just feels like my hand's resting on a pillow. I absolutely love it. I love the 43X. But like I said, I wasn't a big fan of it. And yes, I have done some stuff. I just replaced the barrel because I had so many rounds to that other barrel. It was wearing down like crazy. I threw it in another 43 build that I have. But Kaplan Manufacturing slide, if you're wondering, great quality, has lasted a pretty solid round count even though it's relatively new. I mean, very minimal scratches, very minimal wear. Sealy X Cap Pro, Meeper Light 3-dot sights. I mean, this handgun is complete for everyday carry, and I just love the 43X. Next up is one you probably would have never guessed in a million years. If I said, guess the next handgun, there is 0% chance anyone could have ever guessed this. The Smith & Wesson M&P 40C, even though it is a subcompact. In today's terms, this would be equivalent to Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm subcompact 2.0. Same exact size. But this is the 1.0, where it has not the best texturing, even though it is a very ergonomic, comfortable grip. Really good feeling in the hand. But the reason why I said you would never guess this is it's an older model, and on top of that, this is a law enforcement trade-in. I believe they only made the stainless steel available for law enforcement, and man, is it a beautiful looking handgun. But what's beautiful about it is I paid less than $300 for it. It's been 100% reliable. Very little wear and tear because it was a trade-in, but they're backup weapons. So if you guys are ever buying trade-ins, look for the smaller handguns. Those are their backups. That's the thing that law enforcement practices the least with, at least from the law enforcement I spoke to and that I know personally. They don't practice with their backup as much as their full size. They do practice with it, but just not as much. And this was the backup for a lot of law enforcement. And you can find them always used on Bass Pro or Buds or all over the place. But this handgun right here is the smoothest shooting 40 that I own. Absolutely love this thing. 10 plus 1 of 40. It does have the hinge trigger, but the overall mass of that thick, heavy slide, grip angle, and how it feels in your hand really helps with that recoil. And that makes one of my favorite carry guns out there on the market today, even though they're only used. Next up is going to be one of my favorite 45 ACP handguns in the world, the Glock 30 SF. Now, what I like about this handgun is it is small enough to carry. It's a little bit bigger in every dimension, this way, width, everything than a Glock 26, but it's smaller in this way than a 19, just a little thicker than a 19. But so it's somewhere in between those two when it comes to overall footprint. Width, it is going to be wider, but the way this thing shoots 45 is unreal. Zero recoil, fast follow-up shots, and out of all the Glocks I own, I would say the 43, the 43X, the 42, and the 48 have the best trigger, but the Glock 30 and 29 have the next up. They are the next best Glock trigger. I'm not sure why it changes with caliber or size or whatever the case may be, but this is the second best Glock trigger they have, and it's on the fat boys, the 10 millimeters and the 30, or the 45s. And this thing handles recoil so well, and I oftentimes give this to new shooters. And I say, go ahead and shoot this as your first handgun, and they love it. And when I show them the size of that round, you know, they think that it's going to have all this recoil and be super strong, and I let them shoot it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that was easy, and they actually shoot it pretty well, and they actually prefer to shoot this handgun by the end of the day a lot of times. And then I give them the Glock 29, of course, and then they're like, all right, forget this. But overall, the Glock 30 is amazing, and now they make the Glock 30 in Gen 5. And you can buy conversion barrels for your Glock 30s to convert them to 10 millimeters. So you can now turn this into an extremely versatile handgun. Love the Glock 30. Last but not least, hated by many, loved by few, but the CZ P10M. This was designed for pocket carry. As you can see, it's snag free. They don't even have a dang slide stop. It is internal, so the only way to lock back is it locks back automatically from an empty mag, and that's the only way that you can lock it back. Big deal. Has a 7-pound trigger, but this gun was designed for pocket carry. Most pocket carry pistols, the LCP, LCP2, Diamondback DB9 Gen 4, the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, the Taurus Spectrum, they all have heavier, some even double action triggers. The CZ P10M is no different. It's a little bit bigger, but it's also better shooting than any pistol I just mentioned, and it's a pocket pistol in 9mm. And a lot of people complain, oh, you can't fit that single stack in your pocket. Guys, buy the right pants and you can fit any handgun in any pocket. That's just facts. But overall, CZ quality, you can find these for like $240 on some websites. It's crazy. Metal sights, I mean, CZ finish, CZ ergonomics, comes with a rail. They now make base plates, a +2 in Hive and a +3 from CZ Custom. I mean, awesome, awesome handgun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.